to math stoichiometry is where most students lose points, not because it's difficult, but because they skip a step. In this video, I'll show you the exact 3-step process to go from grams of one substance to grams of another without getting lost along the way. So to quickly go over the concept, the key is to go from grams to moles to moles to grams. So we're going to start with grams of one substance, convert to moles of that substance, use a mole-to-mole ratio to convert to moles of another substance, and then from there convert from moles to grams. So if we look at a first example and we want to apply this information, if we're given H2 plus Cl2 yields 2HCl, how many grams of HCl are produced with 7.3 grams of H2? So if we look at the 3-step process, the first one is to go from grams to moles. We have grams of H2, we want to get to moles of H2. So we're going to do 7.3 grams of H2 multiplied by our molar mass conversion factor. 1 mole of H2 is 2.016 grams of H2. The grams cancel out. We end up with 3.62 moles of H2. Now from there, we're going to go to our second step, which is moles to moles. Now in the second step, we're going to take our 3.62 moles of H2 and convert it to moles of HCl, which is what we want to find. So we're going to look at our mole-to-mole ratio in our problem, which is a 1:2 ratio, going in terms of H2 to HCl, it's 1:2. We're going to put our 1 mole of H2 on the bottom, our 2 moles of HCl on the top. Again, we're doing the mole-to-mole ratio to cancel out moles of what we're starting with. We end up with 7.24 moles of HCl. So now we're working with a certain amount of our product, which is what we want to find. But we want our answer in grams of HCl. Right now we have moles of HCl. This brings us to our third step. So what we're going to do is take our 7.24 moles of HCl and do the exact opposite of what we did in the first step. We are going to do the molar mass, but we're going to have our 1 mole on the bottom this time, and we're going to have our grams, which is 36.46 grams, on the top. Once our moles of HCl cancel out, we're left with 264 grams of HCl. Let's look at a second example. So here we have 2Al plus 3Cl2 yields 2AlCl3. We want to know how many grams of AlCl3 form from 50 grams of aluminum. So again, we're going to go through our 3-step process here. First, we're going to have grams of aluminum, and we're going to convert it to moles of aluminum. So we're going to do 50 grams of aluminum times our molar mass conversion factor, which is going to be 1 mole of aluminum over 26.98 grams of aluminum. Our grams here will cancel out. We're just going to be left with moles of aluminum. We're going to do 50 divided by 26.98, giving us roughly 1.85 moles of aluminum. Now we're going to do our second step, which is the mole-to-mole ratio, and that's going to be based off of our coefficients in our equation. So here it's 2 moles of aluminum gives us 2 moles of our AlCl3. So it's a 2:2 ratio or 1:1 ratio, but I'm going to keep it as a 2:2 ratio. So we're going to do our 1.85 moles of aluminum, and we're going to convert it to moles of our aluminum chloride. So we're going to have our 2 moles of aluminum on the bottom, our 2 moles of aluminum chloride on the top. Moles of aluminum cancel out, and since it's a 2:2 ratio or a 1:1 ratio, it's just going to end up being 1.85 moles of AlCl3 as well. Now we're going to go to our third step, which is going from moles back to grams, but now we're converting our product that we wanted. So we're going to take our 1.85 moles and do our molar mass conversion, just flipped again, with our moles being on the bottom and our grams being on the top. So the molar mass here is 133.34. Our moles cancel out, and we're left with roughly 246 grams of AlCl3. Where a lot of students mess up is they try to jump straight from grams of one to grams of the other and have that as a conversion. But that's not a valid ratio that we can use. Without the mole step in the middle, we're essentially just guessing. We always have to follow this three-step method. Our first step being from grams of our starting subject to moles of our starting subject, then going from moles of what we started with to moles of what we want, and then our third step being basically doing the opposite of our first step and going from moles of our product to grams of our product. For more detailed stoichiometry practice, check out the complete stoichiometry breakdown linked below, and if this helps, subscribe for more tutorials.